reconditioned it at our shop in 2005, and it was given to the Hook and Ladder Winery in the wine country of Sonoma County. Chicago had these FCs, and I understand that the name of the station where they kept some of these was called Disneyland. And there's a number of custom fire patrol trucks. Now, Willys got into the ambulance game too. This was called the utility ambulance, and basically it was a regular panel delivery. It was outfitted with a federal signal beacon, 3 stretchers, and a roof vent. And there you go, you got an ambulance. There were 281 of these made that were 4-cylinders. 116 of them were 226s, 2-wheel drive, and 327 of these were 226s made on a 4x4 chassis. That is a 4x4 stand delivery chassis. Then they stepped it up and kicked it up a notch, as Emerald would say, and they came out with the Willys Field Ambulance, and it was built on the pickup truck chassis, and it came out in 1955. They ran that until 1963. There were 145 of these with a 4-cylinder, and I can't imagine it getting out of its own way. And 219 made with 226s, and only 37 of them were built with the overhead cam 230.
How long did it take you to get to the hospital?
There's another neat old factory photo of the Willys Field Ambulance. Now this one is a 1953. It's in the Netherlands. And a lot of these ambulances didn't stay in the country anyway. They were all done for, I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them were sent overseas for export. And the man who owns this has done an incredible job dolling it up. And he takes it to car shows and has the Red Cross insignia on it. And it's kind of neat because, we all know that in '54 they modified the grill, but that actually happened late in 1953. And it's a nice, beautiful example of the Willys Field Ambulance built prior to them introducing it formally in 1955. The one on the top is in our museum, and it's a 57. And the one on the bottom is, again, an export to Australia. Now this one is from a town right next door to our shop, Monterey. It's in the Russian River of Sonoma County. And they got a 1951 Willys truck, 4-cylinder F-head. And the community got together, raised the funds to build this thing. They converted it to an ambulance, and they were pretty proud. Here's the members of the board of directors of the fire department and the firemen. And on the door there above where it says Monterey is a big brass plaque dedicated to one of the local members of the community. And then there's another plaque on the cowl there. Well, my good friend, his father drove that ambulance when he was in the volunteer fire department. And he tells me the story of how they used to go code 3 to the hospital in this thing. Well, again, it had the 4-cylinder, 72 horsepower F-head motor, and it was about 30 miles to the nearest hospital from there. And he said, well, we'd go code 3 with the lights and sirens going, and we were doing no overdrive in this thing, right? So it went 35 miles an hour flat out with a guy driving, an attendant, and some poor patient in the back. And cars were passing them, the 55 Chevys were passing them on the left, passing them on the right, and they're going code 3. They later on repainted that vehicle, and they painted it red. And before I could get my hands on it, they sold it to some winery and kind of lost track of it. I went and looked at this thing one time in Florida, and it was pretty tough shape, but I had to look. I was already there, so it was okay. Now, they took that same body and made an audio-visual unit. And there's a list on the bottom of all the stuff that they recommended you pack around in this news truck. It had a platform on the roof, and you could put the what is it, a 30-millimeter camera or something on there, and 150 feet of extension cord, and a big screen like this. And the ambulance had its own special serial number, and the audio-visual unit had its own special serial number. And needless to say, it wasn't a big success. But it was kind of a neat idea. So, the Jeep rescue truck. Well, it was marketed for the civil defense during, the outbreak of the Cold War. And as a result of successful testing of the complete Jeep vehicle model line in April of 1955 at a place called Survival City, that was in Mercury, Nevada, during the A-bomb testing by the Atomic Energy Commission. So Willys Motors Inc. developed this Willys rescue truck for use by state and local agencies for disaster rescue operations. Now, they weren't the only ones who built rescue trucks. Rio built rescue trucks, Ford and Chevy did rescue trucks, but apparently the specification from the federal government was they all had to be white, they all had to have a blue roof, they all had to have a blue outline, they all had to have that blue civil defense sticker on the side of them, and they all had to pretty much look the same, be outfitted the same. So you might have seen a similar vehicle as one of these rescue trucks, but made by a different manufacturer. Everybody kind of got into the game at that point. It was government money, so why not? So this specially modified sedan delivery was listed by the Federal Civil Defense Agency as qualified for purchase under the Federal Contributions Plan of M25-1, whatever that means, under which the federal government paid half the cost of the vehicle. So the government paid half the cost, and then the local agency picked up the rest of the tab. Some of the cities that had these were Keewatin, Minnesota, East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Galesville, Maryland. I just found out about another one tonight, possibly in Connecticut. And there was a Willys gathering last year where they featured that vehicle on their advertising poster. This is ours. This came from Minnesota. We got it right out of the firehouse, and it's outfitted and equipped as you see it. There were, according to the records that I have, there were only 14 of these civil defense rescue trucks that were recorded and built. Willys made other civil defense vehicles. They didn't have the special serial number that a rescue truck did, but they still had logos put on them. They were still civil defense vehicles, but they were just regular off-the-line vehicles that got a civil defense sticker slathered on the side of them. Oh, music time. I'm running out of clothes. Alrighty then.
Thank you.
Never looked sexier, has he, Jane?
So Willys got in the tow truck game. After all, they had a whole slew of dealerships, and when you have a dealership and you sell a car, what happens? Down the road, it breaks down, you got to drag it back. So what better to drag your Willys back with but a Willys tow truck? So the approved accessory for the Willys tow truck was the Canfield Wrecker. That wasn't the only company, but that was one of the first companies to jump into the game. The neat thing about these Canfield wreckers was the fact that you could slide the boom into the back of the bed of the truck, and then on the weekend, if you didn't want to be a tow truck and you wanted to go fishing, well, you could take the wrecker out of the back of it and return to a tow truck again. Here's a couple forward controls I threw in here for Denny. And here's one that looks pretty cold and lonely.
Must be on our parking lot.
This is our tow truck. It was came out of Northern California and a little town called Ferndale. And as the dealers did it back in 1950s America, or the distributor rather, the truck would show up perhaps in the middle of the night and drop off the order of Willys vehicles to the dealership. Well, in this case, the dealer in Ferndale had ordered a tow truck in primer and a brand new CJ5 late in 1955. And they were dropped off by the transport truck in the middle of the night. Well, when Jack Tipple, the owner of the dealership, showed up in the morning, the CJ5 was there, but the tow truck was missing. So they looked all around, they called the transport company and everything, and they said, so, where's the tow truck? He says, well, I dropped it off, and you know, in those days, they delivered a car, they dropped it off, and it had only just fumes in the fuel tank, right? Well, what happened is some enterprising youths at the time managed to abscond with the truck, and they drove it down to the river. And they went four-wheeling in the truck until they ran out of gas and sunk it in the sand. So Jack had to go down with his other tow truck that was a lot older than this, and this was replacing it, and winch his own brand new tow truck out of the sand and bring it back. So he ordered it in primer and brought it back because he was going to paint it the yellow and blue AAA colors. And they had that tow truck and ran it from 1955 until, I want to say, 2005 when I got it. Again, here's some great period pictures of tow trucks back in the day towing Willys vehicles into their gas station or whatever. And I forget, this is called something boy, tow boy. Anyway, this was for the FC-150. Craig Brockhouse has one of these also, and quite a neat vehicle. This actually still belongs to the towing company whose name's on the door, and they brought it to a reunion some years ago. One on the top was a gas station in Oregon one day. I stopped for fuel, and there it was, and it's I believe it's a Holmes wrecker on the back of that thing, and incredibly heavy vehicle. This one was on the internet for sale some years back, and it actually looks like a nice factory conversion. And they made some toys. I never got to finish this slide. I was looking for something, never found it. Well, not only did they make tow trucks, but they made gas trucks. This one was an airport aviation fuel truck that went up for sale in Southern California. And it's kind of neat. The guy wanted a lot of money for it, and it ended up going, somebody bought it and it came back this direction. So, Willys, of course, we've all seen the postal Jeep, but the black and white picture shows the Parkway conversion, a right-hand drive version of the Parkway conversion. So a Parkway conversion was a sedan delivery where they took and cut the sides open and put wagon-looking windows in it. And that allowed them to take a commercial vehicle and register it as non-commercial. It also allowed them to go into districts where commercial vehicles weren't allowed. And it added for improved visibility for somebody who just wanted a sedan delivery with the vertical doors, but they wanted the visibility of the side windows. They made 3Bs for the post office. And they made forward controls. Those darn forward controls just keep coming back around. And Jack Benny and the police, they used military jeeps. They used Willys Aero cars. And there's a little M38 they used. Some other ones, there's some one-off oddballs that Willys probably didn't do themselves, but somebody sent it out, bought it and sent it out to I'm sorry this picture is so bad, I got it off the internet, but when are you going to see another one, right? A dog catcher truck. And somebody sent me these pictures some years ago. He wanted to sell me a couple of vehicles, and this one had a backhoe on the back of it. And of course, the picture of our theme vehicle for the poster. To throw this in. And there you have it. Willys Overland, makers of America's most useful vehicles, and the name they well earned and deserved. Thanks.
Just a quick thanks to Paul. That was really, really cool. A lot of pictures I've never seen. And a special thanks is this is a station wagon brochure frame, so you can see both sides. And these were given to us by the Jeepster man.
Nice. Thank you.